upset over somebody who is on the board because of actions that they've taken either as a part of the board or in their personal life, that there's that ability to have that aired before waiting for the next appointment cycle. The last thing is more of a comment. I just don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And so I do see the reason for having subpoena power, and I share concerns of a lot of others here that this will end up tied up in litigation and we have nothing there in the process. So could there be a process where we pass a bill that does not have that and then do some kind of follow-up that takes that into account so that we have something in place during the time where we may end up litigating that piece of it?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different options and possibilities. And I think it can go down to maybe 3 types. Those that want the strongest possible bill with subpoena power, those that are in the middle who want something passed, even if it is not very strong, and then those that just absolutely oppose anything that would give it teeth or subpoena power. So for those that are on the strong or the middle, there are options. We can pass it with subpoena power, pass it not with subpoena power. We can separately try to add subpoena power later. We can put the question to the voters and try to get it spelled out in the city charter specifically to get it subpoena power, which is a longer process. So there are different options. But then I think you also have that one group that just don't want it to have subpoena power and would oppose anything, any effort at all to give it that teeth or any other additional teeth. I think there are enough of us that want to see the strongest possible one that we can pass. I would like to see it with subpoena power. I think today was an opportunity to lay it all out as far as clear language about how to make it stronger. And now is the time when we kind of take a pulse of the committee and all of them and see who lines up where and see where we can get past this session.
Are there any other questions from members of the committee? If not, Alderman Green, did you want to just talk a little bit about your thoughts and ideas in relationship to the nomination process? We're still talking about Board Bill 208, we're not talking about committee substitute, just general thoughts and ideas in relationship to
Another possible change.
Yeah, another possible change.
Several times that my concern has really been in the selection process and ensuring that we have the most amount of community input into that selection process. And so what I've been working on is basically an amendment that would bring more transparency to that process and less political discretion. So what would be proposed is essentially having a publicized rubric with the expectations that we are looking for people who sit on the COB, so that as people are applying or submitting their application, they know what we're looking for. So we're being transparent up front with what our expectations are. Provide an opportunity for people to talk about what their background is, what it is that they would bring to the committee, and also ask for letters of recommendation from community groups or people residing within the district that they would be representing. So again, it's that citizen input piece into the selection process. And then once all of that application material is given to the Board of Aldermen members who are in each district. Then they would basically grade them based upon the rubric and send their recommendations over to the mayor, who would then use the same transparent process with the rubric to make his final determination or final recommendation back to the board to approve. We would still have the public comment section, like we had said before, but I think it would standardize the process. So, because one of my concerns is that every one of the districts uses their own process to determine who they're nominating, and I think it's important that everybody's on a level playing field throughout each, and then in that we're not just making these political appointments, but we're really choosing people that are going to be representative of the communities that they're being appointed to represent. So, I'm sure it's not perfect in where it is at the moment, but the goal is to bring more transparency to that process and more opportunity for public input and public engagement throughout the selection process.
Any thoughts or comments from Alderman Gordon?
Yeah. So this would create a rubric, and in the rubric it would basically have like level of education and what they've done in the community. What else? What do you think?
It's yet to be determined, but I think what I would envision happening is on the application we have some background information, general things, employment, involvement in the community, things like that. A couple of questions dealing with trying to get around their thought process and how, if given a large amount of information that is potentially conflicting, how would you go about synthesizing that information so we can tell a little bit more how people think, and that when they're thrown into this, they have that ability. So I think the criteria in the rubric is yet to be determined, but it would standardize the process.
Is that complete? Oh, you have another question? Okay. Okay. Alderman Boyd?
Sure. Okay, so talk a little bit about the rating scale and what you envision. I guess because my first thought concern is if I recommend somebody who didn't score as well in my cluster as I would hope. So cutoff score, what do you envision?
I come to this with a background in education, and so I'm going to preface that. It's pretty standard in the education field to give a rubric before you give any kind of assignment, so that the person completing the assignment knows what the expectations are. So examples would be when you hand out a rubric, you don't just say, meets expectations, doesn't meet expectations, but there's actually examples of that rubric of what we're looking for. So that as people are filling out that application, they know what the questions mean, they know what the expectations are, so that they will score well. That makes sense. That they know what the expectation is going into it.
So you envision this rubric to be something that's fairly basic, that the very main person will be able to score well? Because my first thought would be maybe someone who's highly educated and has a wealth of experience and who's 50 years old may exceed the expectation of somebody who's 21 years old, but offer a lot of value to the discussion.
And I think that all goes into determining what criteria we're using as part of the rubric. So knowing that life experiences have equal weight to educational experiences, and that somebody may have a PhD, but somebody else's life experiences may be just as valuable to the board. And so I think think that's yet to be determined, exactly what all of those criteria would look like. But we have outlined that we are looking for people who are objective. We are looking for people with kind of a basic amount of education. And this would just be a way of evenly evaluating all applications that come to us.
Alderman Schmidt.
So the task force is public safety committee persons, parliamentary chair, designated representative. I could see this as a real positive in terms of having the consistency. I think based on many persons' experiences in various parts of the country with regard to exercises and various rights and so forth, it could potentially become used as a basis of limiting certain groups. I think we also have to be concerned about that. I do applaud you for the first time I can ever remember putting in the word rubric in a piece of legislation. So we now have the educational and the legislative part. I think we just need to be a bit cautious because we heard testimony about some folks who sort of wanted to put a, let me just say, when people went to the ballot, there was a test to see what they did right and voted about. Okay, so we want to be clear that while we want to have some basis on this that's consistent, perhaps we don't want to necessarily eliminate people from the table of this oversight. So I think
And I completely agree with that, and was cognizant of that. The first draft of this, we're asking as part of the application process for, a resume, and then, I went back and had a conversation with a few and said, you know what, a lot of people don't have resumes, but they can write about what their life experiences are without putting that into that form. So I completely agree with you on that front. And so I think the key is when, the rating scale is designed to standardize the process, that we're looking at it with that lens and making sure that somebody with, no high school diploma versus somebody who, has a PhD has an equal chance at getting on this board if they are somebody that the community that they are supposed to represent supports and wants to see in that position.
the other thing is, sort of, this doesn't put anybody on balance who would like this proposal ballot. There's a rubric other than age and number of years and those kind of things. So I just, and then there were others who testified who wanted to have a whole series of qualifications. I just think we need to be cautious.
Right. And I look at this as kind of the middle ground in that. When you do put somebody on the ballot, yes, there's only certain, age requirements to get yourself on the ballot, but your bio, your life experiences, your rubric is the citizens that are electing you. All of that stuff is put out there for them to make a judgment and then go to the polls and vote on that. I think when we just have a system that is only appointed by elected officials, it takes the citizens out of the process when this is supposed to be their board. And
This is designed for the citizens.
yes, so this is designed to bring them in because what it's outlining is the letters of support need to be coming from community members or community organizations within the district that they're wanting to represent. It's bringing more transparency to the process so that the public can look back at how scores were given and how people were chosen and know that it wasn't just because, we happen to have personal relationships with somebody who wanted on this board, that they were actually qualified and they met certain expectations that can then, the public can see
comments on this all?
Just it's not perfect yet, but this is something I'm committed to working on. It's the piece that has concerned me the most, so if there's other feedback.
Are there other comments? Anything else?
I will only say that, so now that we have everything out, we had our first lengthy conversation with the committee. We've had an opportunity to comment. I think over the next few days, we'll kind of touch bases to see where everybody is, what they would like to see, what level of support are for the changes. Try to construct a bill based upon those changes, those recommended changes and the support for it. I think we have enough time to pass a bill that I think will at least be a step in the right direction. We have another board meeting next week. I asked the chair to possibly call another meeting of the committee next week. We can come together and see the results of those conversations over the next few days.
We're looking towards Monday, 10 o'clock for next week. But it'll be on the schedule. Okay, there's no other discussion. Sure.
I really would like to see more time to decide. Today is Monday, have another meeting. Some of this is just coming forward. Other people's schedules may not allow for them to be at a meeting to be heard. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea to. And so my thought would be then if we voted on this, that be your insurance to have it voted on. We have a meeting on Monday.
We'll see.
I want to make sure we're being as transparent as possible with everybody, and we're not, trying to do something moving too fast where some people don't have an opportunity to truly input their mind. That's my concern, since we're talking about transparency.
Well, I appreciate those comments. I think we have a lot of time for conversations, open anytime you can call. And I think now that we've had a public meeting and have made these changes and recommendations known not only to the committee members but to everyone, that we will receive a lot of comment from people on both sides of the issue. With that being said, I think we do want to see something passed soon, at least make an effort to make a step in the right direction. And these conversations about civilian oversight have been going on for years. I don't think we've proposed anything that has not been at one time or another discussed or proposed. It's been going on for a very long time.
Right, but then that could be our meetings are over.
17 hours, yeah, seriously. Oh, God. Yeah, he's been standing for almost 3.5 hours, for God's sake. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. You need a chair up there.
It's not the hot seat, it's like the hot standing spot. Right now. Thank you. Great job. My standing. Going over the break.
It was.
Go ahead and talk, just leave it.
Antonio French, Alderman of the 21st Ward.
Okay, and what time did you propose this substitute bill with the subpoena power?
I don't know the name.
Yeah, so we've had folks on both sides for a very long time giving opinions.
I'm not sure. A bunch of the aldermen
recommendations on how to even make this bill stronger, how to make the Civilian Oversight Board stronger. And then there are other folks on the other side who thought we should make it weaker or not do it at all. And so last week we had testimony, folks on both sides of the issue, and people in the middle gave their thoughts on it. And so we pieced together a bill that reflects a lot of those recommendations. And though the committee did not formally take up the committee substitute today, what the committee substitute allows is to put all of those recommendations in written form. And so now, as Aldermen discuss this over the next few days and weeks, we actually have on paper what we are discussing, what the actual recommendations are, and not just in these broad terms or very specific language. So there may be some things that people agree with, some things that people think go too far. So we'll be taking a poll of the room over the next few days.
Okay, so basically this was, the purpose of today's meeting was to lay out everything and hopefully put it in the language of, final draft.
Yeah, so I think today was a very productive meeting. So it was the first opportunity that this committee has had to consider and to discuss Board Bill 208 in any form. So today was an opportunity to discuss among ourselves the current version, and then afterwards we discussed possible changes, both the ones that we included in the committee substitute, and then as members propose some changes as well. So now we'll chew over that over the weekend, have a lot of conversations, see where the support lies, and then come back with a final version.
And you had said before this peanut butter ordinance meeting, give us an example of how this could happen, this civilian oversight board.
With subpoena power? So the only real power of the Civilian Oversight Board is to be able to do independent investigations. It cannot directly discipline officers. It can only make recommendations to the chief. And so in order for it to be able to have informed recommendations, we feel like it needs to have access to all that evidence. It also needs, in order to make people feel secure that it's a completely independent body, it needs a certain degree of independence, and not just rely upon the chief to supply them information at will. And so subpoena power is a way to do it. Many civilian oversight boards across the country have subpoena power. In fact, this board has subpoena power. Now, just because you have the power doesn't mean you use it. In fact, we as a board use it very rarely. But by the sheer fact of having it, it also changes how your requests for information are received. So we just want the board to have as much authority to receive information as possible and be able to conduct very thoughtful, informed investigations.
Now, there's been talk that the mayor would veto this.
Yeah, I've heard that, and as you might recall, this Board of Aldermen passed the Civilian Oversight Board bill back in 2006, and that bill also includes subpoena power. Now, the mayor's made a lot of statements over the last few weeks, especially since we got unrest over August and through 2014, that he supports the idea of civilian oversight, he supports the idea of independent review. And so we would hope that that remains true, and that he would support a bill that proposed true oversight, real authority to do investigations. Again, having no authority to directly discipline officers, and having lots of safeguards in place to protect the rights of officers. But at the very least, we believe that we should have the ability to conduct thorough, independent investigation.
And when is the vote expected?
So we will meet again on Monday at 10 a.m. to further discuss the bill. So we'll see what happens.
So it could come to a vote that day?
It could.
Okay. And then obviously a vote by the full aldermen. After that, what are you expecting to happen, if it passes through committee?
Everything will be dependent on the final version, the final language. So we'll be seeing where support lies over the next few days. And we'll craft a final version of the bill reflecting of that support.
Okay, anything else?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, everybody done? Oh,
You got one. Got another one, right?
I was saying you can jump in.
Chris, do you mind if I just listen?
Hey, cutie pies.
Yeah, I've apparently been adopted here.
Oh.
So as far as the
Yeah,
legal
no, I
advice
need
on
my
subpoena
pen.
power, tell me about your conversations with the attorney general.
Yeah, our conversations with the Attorney General last week were very clear. They issued us a written statement saying that in their opinion, very serious, the Board of Aldermen had authority to create a civilian oversight board with subpoena power. So after that was publicized yesterday, there appears to be a bit of backtracking. So we'll touch bases again with them today and tomorrow. But it sounds like they are leaving it up to the city council. And the city council, who is appointed by the mayor, who is against subpoena power, has issued a statement saying that they believe that we don't have the authority to issue subpoena power to this board. And in fact, that's what one of the reasons he used to veto the bill last time. Now, what you know is that there are many ways to give subpoena power to the board, including putting it to the vote of the people and to have a charter change if that were necessary. The first question is there the will to give this body subpoena power? And then we can all work together to figure out how best to do that. But there seems to be a lot of disagreement about whether or not they want this board to have teeth. So we'll see. We're going to count our votes and see where support lies over the next few days and construct a bill accordingly.
Do you think that this bill with subpoena power could pass the full board?
The board has previously passed a bill with subpoena power, so yeah, I think it could. Now, will it have 15 votes, which is necessary to pass a bill, or will it have the necessary number of votes to sustain a veto is a whole other question. And, and the mayor is lobbying against any bill with real teeth. What effect does that have? So we'll see. But the board has in the past passed a civilian oversight forward bill with subpoena power.
What timeline are you hoping for?
Well, the timeline for us to pass it this session would require committee action next week, and then some board action at the next board meeting next week. And then there's an opportunity to either call another board meeting or wait until we come back in April for the very last meeting of the session. So we'll see.
One of the things about this bill is that it seems like this board won't be compensated for their time monetarily.
Yeah, and that's actually in the state statute. The state statute says that the board cannot be compensated any further than reimbursements for minor expenses.
Does that raise any concerns for you that the people serving on this board would sort of by definition have to have a certain amount of income and have a certain amount of free time, that these wouldn't be the people who would be having negative experience with law enforcement?
That does concern me, but that is true for most boards, especially at the city level. And when you look at even city councils in St. Louis County, that's also true, that those many times those council positions have such low compensation that it really deters a lot of poor folks from being able to serve on them. So it is, but under the nomination procedure and the appointment procedure, we'd hope that the Board of Aldermen would try to have a diverse, both racially, economically, geographically board. Yeah, sure, no problem.
Hey, Tony, so if through your discussions over the next few days, it turns out that there's not the support you need to get the subpoena power, the substitute through, are you prepared to put your support behind the original bill and just try to get that passed?
We'll see. I mean, some of the opinions I've heard expressed is if it's not strong, don't pass it at all.
Oh, the side on for sure. More.
So we'll see.
But I've got extras.
Earlier, I just didn't do it right.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's
Is it 18 votes?
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna meet you around about the same piece.
The question is how many to override?
20.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big number. So,
And how come this came up fairly late in the discussion about the bill?
I think it came up right on time. There's been ongoing discussions about subpoena power, but during this legislative session, we haven't seen a lot of these broad recommendations and discussions on paper. And so before we pass the final version, I think it's appropriate to have those discussions. At least we can say we discussed it.
And when you say it came up at just the right time, I mean, there's some sort of calculation to try to make it the
No,
last.
I mean, so the way this bill was always designed to be discussed, we had the first meeting for public comment, which we had last week, and then based upon public comment, we made whatever recommendations for changes that came out of that. And so the version that we see now that was made public yesterday is based upon the recommendations that the public came and supported last week.
So the subpoena power thing, I wasn't at the meeting last week.
Yeah, several people mentioned
That
subpoena
came
power.
up a lot, and that's
And
part
on the
of what
other,
influenced the idea of putting it in the substance.
Yeah, so the substitute has not been taken up by the committee. We have not formally taken it up, but we did get an opportunity today, our first opportunity, to discuss all the possible changes. And it also, a lot of the changes we discussed today were reflective of concerns from police officers who came to testify last week. Many of them felt that there need to be additional requirements of who can serve, some additional protections about whether or not this board can actually interview accused officers, which it cannot under both
I
versions.
heard you say that the subpoena power doesn't include being able to subpoena the officer.
Yeah, you can't, still can't directly interview the officer.
That would seem major, major difference.
Well, there, in many people's opinion, there are a lot of major differences.
Yeah, I mean, that one seems like, as far as the subpoena power question,
Yeah.
it almost,
Yeah, and then the other ones, yeah, there are many concerns that were raised. So we'll see what we can do. Okay. Oh, I haven't talked to.
Okay, I think that's it for right now. That was a long ass meeting. Bye bye.